Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about how I made it as a personal trainer. And when I say make it, I don't necessarily mean that I am stupid rich, millionaire, anything like that. But I did go from incredibly broke, working for someone else, not having enough clients, to running my own personal training business, not working for anybody else, and making plenty of money, enough to buy a house, enough to actually consider buying a second house. And now I have trainers that work for me, massage therapists too, for that matter. And I did it in a very risk-free way that I think a lot of other people can implement. And I don't have any loans out. I don't have any crazy debt. So all in all, doing pretty well. Well on my way to creating my personal training empire. So I'm just going to go over the steps that I took to get there. Again, I think they're repeatable, and I think that there's a very good chance that it's just a formula that could also work for you. So if you wouldn't mind, if you find this kind of video useful, please hit the like button. Definitely helps the video out, and stay tuned. All right, so this is going to be step one, and I'm assuming that you're already certified. And that means you've gone through the NASM program, the ACE program, the ACSM program, NSCA. One of those, hopefully. Those are going to be the top personal training credentials that you can get. Makes you a lot more credible, and it will help you get your first personal training job. And step one is honestly just to work for somebody else. And of course, the long-term goal here is to eventually go off and do this on your own. There's just a lot more money in that. However, you're going to learn a lot from working from someone else, probably a few different someone else's. You're going to learn structure. You're going to learn how to just be really good at personal training. You're going to learn client interaction. You're going to learn how to, make your own workout chart, sales, everything. You're just going to learn everything. So you're going to get your practice in. That way, when you do eventually open up your own place or start working on your own, you're already good. There's no concern that you're not good enough to make it happen. So I recommend at least 2 years. 2 years of working for someone else, preferably, again, a few different places. For me, I like the studio setting much better than a gym environment for personal training. You're not sharing equipment with everybody else in a gym. It's just a better environment for personal training. You're able to give a much better training product at the end of the day. Okay, so now we have step two. Step two is tricky because now you're going to be juggling a few different things. So ideally, you'll still be working that job that you've found useful. It's helping you grow as a personal trainer. You're learning a lot from that job. Quite honestly, you're making some stable income from that job, hopefully. Then what I did and what I think not enough trainers do is you start trying to form your own business. I think the most risk-free way of doing that as a personal trainer is just to do some in-home personal training, right? So that is going to mean that you have to live in an area, ideally live in an area, where, there's decent income. You can do in-home personal training. You're not going to die. No one's going to physically attack you. So again, you want to live in a pretty good area. Those are the areas that tend to do pretty well with personal training. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, but you start doing in-home personal training. Very low overhead cost, very easy to get started. You build just a basic website, create a Google listing, a few really easy things, get your name out there. You can use different things like Thumbtack to get potential leads. I got a whole bunch of clients that way, good stable income clients that I work with to this day. Again, no overhead cost. The money's good. You start meeting clientele in the area. And like I said, ideally you still have another job. So this is just extra income, right? And you're starting to build your business, build your footprint in that area that you want to eventually maybe start a studio in. So before I forget, a lot of people get intimidated by in-home personal training, but it's actually really easy. Honestly, you can get away with a set of bands and some very basic equipment and just a well-formulated plan. I made a video years ago, and to be honest with you, I'm a much better trainer now, but I'm going to pop a link in this video, so you should see it somewhere up there maybe. Hopefully my hand's on the right side. I'll do a new video at some point for that as well, because I think that is a really easy thing, but maybe I can help you guys, skip some of the hardships that I had to go through when I first started in-home training. Okay, step 3. Step 3 is a very important one. So for step 3, you need to invest in a studio space. At least in my opinion, you really do, because in-home training can take you only so far. Maybe if you live in a city where there's just such an abundance of people, maybe if that's the case, then maybe in-home training really is a better option for you. But if that's not the case, if you live in just an average suburb area like I do, eventually you're going to have to invest in a studio space. Again, it takes a very long time to travel between clients. At least it usually does. So you end up just eating up a lot of time. You have to pay for, gas and mileage on your car. It is annoying to transport equipment sometimes as well. So again, eventually studio space is going to be needed. A few different options for how you do that. One option that I really like is if you clear things up with the zoning department of a town that maybe you're trying to run a business in, you might actually be able to buy property such as a house. I'm currently in my duplex right now. Originally, I used the room we're sitting in right here as a personal training studio. As soon as I outgrew this specific area, I was able to buy a bigger studio space in town, and now I use that for my training. But I did start here, and this is really where my business took off and went to the next level. If you can't do that, if you live in a city and you want to, or maybe you just don't want people in your house, for instance, another easy way to do it is just to rent studio space. That will require a little bit more upfront cost, but again, every situation is different. So if you want to try and use the same method I did and use your living space also as a training space, there are ways of doing it, especially if you find a house with a good layout. If you don't have that option or you're just not comfortable with it, again, renting studio space is your other option. Okay, we're on to our final step, step 4, which I like to call balls to the wall. And the reason I like to call it balls to the wall is because by this point you should have a decent little following, right? You've worked for someone else for a long time, hopefully in a different area, again, so as not to infringe upon that employer's territory. But you've also been growing your business on the side for that entire time. So there's a good chance this is the time to cut ties with anything else that is not your business. This is where you're solely focusing on doing your own thing. And if you don't feel like there's any way in which you can do that, you're not ready for step 4. So step 4 is when you can just go off, do it on your own. Maybe it is going to be a little bit of a plunge, a little bit of a risk. But again, hopefully you have your own studio space at this point. Again, if you're really killing it as an in-home trainer, maybe you just stay with that. For me, definitely getting into the studio space made a huge difference. I no longer had to worry about travel time to and from sessions. I no longer had to pay for, gas and miles on the car. So my business did explode when I eventually did transition to in-studio training. Granted, I still, like I said, do a little bit of in-home training in other people's homes as well. So, those are my 4 steps. If you guys like this video, if you think you can put this plan into action, or maybe you have different ideas of different steps that can be taken to grow your own personal training business, please comment below. Also, please like and subscribe. It really helps the video. And stay tuned for more future content on building your training business.